Good day, everyone! This is a place where government representatives discuss relevant and timely issues. This is where Filipino people voice out their concerns. This is our middle ground. Welcome to PIA iTALK! Mahigit kumulang na 5 dekada na mula nung maitatag ang ugnayan ng Pilipinas at China. Today, the Philippines and China are collaboratively engaging in various aspects such as tourism, trade, employment, and other diplomatic relations. However, dialogues regarding territorial disputes in the West Philippine Sea have left a mark and led to a cooling-off period. Ngayong araw, kasama natin si Commodore Jay Tarriela ng Philippine Coast Guard upang bigyang pansin ng issue at mas lubos nating maunawaan ang usapin tungkol sa West Philippine Sea.
Good day, everyone. I'm Commodore Jay Tristan Tarriela. I'm currently the spokesperson of the Philippine Coast Guard for the West Philippine Sea. For this presentation, I would like to give you some highlights why we do transparency in the West Philippine Sea. When President Bongbong Marcos delivered his first State of the Nation address, he said that this country will not lose 1 inch of its territory. We will continue to uphold our territorial integrity and sovereignty in accordance with our Constitution and the international law. But the question is, how is he going to respond to the Chinese aggression in the West Philippine Sea? Before I will detail the approach of the current administration in responding to Chinese aggression, let me first give you a bird's eye view of how his predecessors have responded to the Chinese threat in the West Philippine Sea. As you are aware, during the time of President Pinoy Aquino, what he used is the legal approach. In 2013, a year after the standoff, he filed a case in the International Tribunal questioning the overlapping claim of the People's Republic of China in the entire South China Sea, trying to invalidate the 9-Line claim. In 2016, it was favorably a victory for the Philippine government. However, we had a different tone for the next president. Under President Duterte, it was more of a diplomatic approach. It was through appeasement strategy. In this diplomatic approach, it is a departure of the legalist approach that President Pinoy did, wherein he tried to have a much more sincere relation with President Xi Jinping. However, during his 6-year term, the same level of aggression remains to be happening. Our Filipino fishermen are still being harassed. The Armed Forces of the Philippines remains to have difficulty in doing their supply operation, and the Philippine Coast Guard is still being shadowed and bullied as we patrol the West Philippine Sea. So the question now for President Bongbong Marcos is how he can be able to respond to Chinese aggression. And this is where our transparency initiative was started. In this particular incident that you are seeing on the screen, the Philippine Coast Guard vessel experienced a military-grade laser coming from the Chinese Coast Guard vessel. This is the first incident in 2023 wherein the Philippine Coast Guard decided to publicize the Chinese illegal actions and aggressive behavior in the West Philippine Sea. This is actually the time that the Transparency Initiative of President Bongbong Marcos was born. Now, what are the impact of the Transparency Initiative for almost 1 year now going in our approach in the West Philippine Sea? I think the first one that we need to highlight is that in our government, it's not just the Philippine Coast Guard, but even the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Department of Foreign Affairs, and even the National Security Council is facing the media, telling the public, narrating what happened. I think this is something that has been missing for so many years already, wherein the Philippine government has been very cautious in publicizing what is happening in the West Philippine Sea. But under this administration, we have interagency cooperation to make the Filipino people aware of what's happening. The second impact of the Transparency Initiative is that the international community now has become more vocal in mentioning their support in the arbitral award. It's not just the United States who's reaching out for the modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines or even the Philippine Coast Guard, but even countries from the European Union and Japan are also helping our armed forces of the Philippines for us to have a much more credible defense posture in responding to aggressive action of China. And then on the third point, it is worth mentioning that because of the right information that we have been publishing, coupled with the images and the videos that we release, and also the stories of the media that were embedded to tell the Filipino people what is happening, more Filipinos now favor the approach of our national government in the West Philippine Sea. Unlike before, wherein it's very difficult for us to tell the Filipino people in the past years that harassment in the West Philippine Sea remains to be happening. And then for the fourth point, it is important for us to highlight as well that even the legislature, whether the Senate or the House of Representatives, is also now supporting the Philippine government's approach in the West Philippine Sea. We can see that from the increase of the national budget, the confidential funds that were realigned to the Philippine Coast Guard, to the National Security Council, and even to the Armed Forces of the Philippines. These are the impacts that were brought about because of the transparency initiative that we have been doing. And then the other point is that before, there were lawmakers, there were senators who have always been silent about the aggressive action of China. But this time, they are now even wearing t-shirts saying that they support our West Philippine Sea approach. And then the other impact is that every time we publicize the information in the West Philippine Sea, we can tell that we are really very effective. It's because in a very rare occasion, you can expect a Chinese ambassador having a press conference trying to belie our first transparency case wherein we informed the public about the military-grade laser. But in this particular press conference, he said that the military-grade laser that they use is just a rare laser pointer that can be purchased through online. And then the other reason why we can say that we have been very effective is that every time we publicize a story that clearly depicts the violation of the international law or aggressive action of China, China would always release a counter statement trying to deny the existence of what had happened. But the other approach of China in misinformation is also very troubling, and sometimes it, most of the time, targets the messenger. This is the other approach of China to combat our transparency approach. They have to destroy the credibility of the messenger. I am one of their favorites. I think it's because I've been very effective in exposing their aggressive action. And then the other one is that they would always try to mock me in social media platforms so that I can be able to lose the support from the Filipino people, and that the public opinion would not side on whatever I'm telling to the public. Now, why this matters to the Public Information Agency? I believe that the Philippine Information Agency, by your name itself, you are actually the agents of for Philippine information. It is very important for PIA to be the partner of the national government and the National Task Force West Philippine Sea in our effort for transparency. The first one is because you can make our voice louder. With the regional offices that you have and the regional network that you have established, I believe that the PIA agencies can reach out to the grassroots level of the radios and also the local media station for us to be able to amplify the messaging of the national government. For you to tell the Filipino people that until now, aggressive behavior of China is still happening, harassment of the Filipino fishermen is still happening, and it's still a very difficult time for the Philippine Coast Guard and the armed forces of the Philippines to carry out our mission in the West Philippine Sea. The second one is to magnify the truth. I'm not saying that whatever I am releasing to the public, whether the National Task Force West Philippine Sea or statements coming from the Department of Foreign Affairs, that these are the gospel of what really transpired. I'm expecting that the Public Information Agency would still be the guardians of the truth, that you can be able to find the lies from the reality, that you can be able to guide the Filipino people to say that we need to support the truth that is being espoused by the national government. And then the last one is do not lie. Our foundation of the transparency approach in the West Philippine Sea, for us to be more effective in countering gray zone activities and also defeating the fake news widespread of the Chinese government, is for us not to lie. That is the only way that we can be able to counter Chinese misinformation. That is always to maintain and talk about the realities that are happening in the West Philippine Sea and still stick with the truth. Thank you very much.
As we wrap up this in-depth talk about the most talked about dispute, may we, as Filipinos, strive to become more informed and knowledgeable about our rights and territorial claims. And may the first-hand insights from those on the front line serve as evidence of the government's endeavors to safeguard our nation and protect what rightfully belongs to us. Hanggang sa muli, magkita-kita tayo sa susunod na PIA iTALK. Mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas!